Hi, this is Steve Ryan. I'm the claims guy at Delane Gibson, and I want to offer my opinion on what's going to happen post COVID-19 shelter in place. So basically, once the government restrictions are lifted and people go back to work and life starts some semblance of normalcy, the lawsuits are coming. Because when people are exposed to the virus and come down with it, they're going to be looking for compensation. And for those that die, their families will be looking for compensation. So first, let's take a look at workers' comp. When this all started, my initial impression was that employees affected by the virus were not going to be covered under comp. And that was because it's not within the course and scope of their employment. One important exception to that was first responders, because it is within the course and scope of their employment. However, I've revised my view on that in terms of when the restrictions are lifted, employers are potentially putting their employees in harm's way by coming back to work. Overall, employers have a responsibility to provide a safe workplace. So if they invite their employees back to work and they come down with an infection, it's quite likely the comp carrier is going to be forced to pay those claims. Another section that doesn't come into play too often is employer's liability. And this is section 2 of your workers' comp policy. And that simply allows third parties, basically families, to sue an employer if their loved one is infected or dies. I think this is a trend we're likely to see in the coming weeks. Now let's take a look at general liability. Under a business owner's policy and a commercial general liability policy, a virus infection may not meet the definition of an occurrence. I think that's going to be where the lawsuits revolve around. Also, another area is many jurisdictions regard virus contamination as a biological pollutant. And on almost every liability policy, there is an absolute pollution exclusion. So that may come into play. So I bounced my opinion off the leaders at MAIA, Mass Association of Insurance Agents, our industry association, and they generally agree with my position, except they're not taking a hard line on this at this point. More importantly, whether a claim made against you has any merits whatsoever isn't really that important to me. What's important to me is to trigger a defense for that claim. I don't think there's any business owners out there that are in a hurry to open up their checkbooks and write their attorneys a check for $20,000 to $30,000 to defend a claim being made against them. So I'm going to do everything I can to try to trigger coverage. So in terms of general liability, it's my professional opinion that there are going to be lawsuits. The carriers have the final say in deciding coverage. I'm going to fight hard for our clients to try to trigger a defense for that claim being made against them. And ultimately, I think the courts and or the feds are going to dictate how this plays out. And lastly, I think we have to look at directors and officers coverage and errors and omissions coverage. Now, typically these policies deal with economic damages, not bodily injury claims. However, I think that companies and boards of directors may be a target. And essentially, the claims being asserted, I think, will be whether management was proactive in mitigating the threat to their employees. So it becomes extremely important for these boards of directors and management teams to document everything they've done proactively to try to mitigate any exposure to their employees. So to wrap this up, the claims guy's opinion, and I am the world's foremost authority on my opinion. Number one, Delane Gibson stands apart from other agents. We're here to provide counsel. We have resources to help you make sense of COVID-19, and we'll do everything we can to help you weather this storm. We've been affected by this too, and I believe that together we will persevere. Thanks, and stay safe.